Hello, and welcome to Dr. Edmund A. Babler Memorial State Park public meeting for 2024. My name is Chris Ferree, and I'm superintendent here for the park. We're doing things a little bit differently this year. We're doing an online video that hopefully more people will be able to view instead of coming in person. We're going to go over the park operations, some of our projects, some of our challenges that are going on, and we hope that you stay tuned and take a look. We always like to talk about our Missouri State Park mission, and that is to preserve and interpret the finest examples of Missouri's natural landscapes, to preserve and interpret the finest examples of Missouri's cultural landmarks, and to provide healthy and enjoyable outdoor recreation opportunities for all Missourians and visitors to Missouri. Of course, we do all three of those here at the park. A very specific park mission statement is to preserve the park's mesic, old-growth forest, to preserve the park's historic Civilian Conservation Corps, CCC, and Works Progress Administration, the WPA resources, which of course were Depression-era New Deal programs, and provide recreational opportunities consistent with the park's character. All of this, of course, is made possible by the Missouri State Park Soils and Water Tax, which is a 0.1% sales tax, provides approximately 3/4 of all the state parks budgets, and renewed by voters every 10 years. It will be back on the ballot in 2026, and we appreciate your past support. Some quick facts for here, Babler, specifically the park. It was dedicated October 10th, 1938. And a little brief history, of course. The namesake, Dr. Edmund A. Babler. He was a prominent surgeon here in the 1930s, and died unexpectedly. His family got together, and they gathered land that is now currently the park to donate in their brother's memory. And they did turn it over to the state and eventually became the state park as we know it now. It's just over 2,000 acres, actually 2,441 acres of Ozark border Missouri River Hills landscape. Of course, if you know where the park sits, we do sit fairly close to the Missouri River. We average about 495,000 visitors each year. In 2023, we had 533,000 plus visitors. Of course, since post-pandemic, we've had record number of visitation here to the park, and that's true for almost all of our Missouri state parks. We average about 31,000 overnight guests, which between the campground and our outdoor education center group camp. We employ 7 full-time year-round salary staff and anywhere between 5 to 10 seasonal workers, depending on the time of year. So, of course, the significance, we talked a little bit about the history and Dr. Edmund A. Babler. The other thing that became of that, when they were getting ready to donate the land and the park development, they were able to utilize the Civilian Conservation Corps and the Works Progress Administration, which, of course, those Depression-era 1930s federal programs did an awful lot across our country, and the park is a great benefit of that. A lot of our original stonework, roads were put in, our sewer system, our water system. The park really would not be here the way it is now without those two organizations and those federal dollars that helped. And then, of course, we also are here to protect that native Missouri River Hills landscape and green space. The park is really a small city in itself. We take care of our own water system. We take care of our own wastewater system. We, of course, provide great service to our overnight and daytime guests, including security with our ranger department, and also cooperative partnerships, which are local governments, and of course, Parkway Rockwood outdoor education. We provide education and interpretation, and we take care of also the road systems, all the trails, facility maintenance, and buildings. Things that are great for overnight guests. We, of course, offer 75 campsites, and we're in the middle of a project upgrade for our campsites. But when that's all said and done, we will still have 75 sites. We have another 30-person capacity special use area, which is predominantly used for organized groups. And then we have the Jacob L. Babler Outdoor Education Center, or we like to call it the OEC, that is run in partnership with Parkway Rockwood community education. We receive about 30,000 campers a year in the campground and special use area, and about 10,000 campers at the Outdoor Education Center. And in 2023, we sold 12,616 camping nights. Some of the challenges, of course, that we always face here in the park. We are continuing to work with an increase of park usage and camping. We've, really had our great visitation to the park. Post-COVID, people really found parks and they still enjoy them. That's a good challenge to have. But it changes some use patterns here in the park. Our continual removal of diseased trees, especially ash trees, due to the emerald ash borer infestation. Those are really centered around the campground as well. We've removed a lot of trees, and then with the campground project also has removed a few other trees. We are going to be working on a tree replanting plan starting in the campground once that project is over at the tail end of this year of 2024. And of course, we're in the middle of 3 major capital improvement projects and the associated park closures that go with that. And we're going to talk about those capital improvement or major projects here in a bit specifically. We mentioned before that we do take care of facility maintenance. Park staff is responsible for the maintenance, upkeep, and restoration of all park buildings and infrastructure. That includes everything from newer construction, such as the visitor center here, which was built in the early 90s, all the way down to our historic district, where we have 22 buildings dating from the 1930s, constructed again by the CCC and the WPA. So we have to know a little bit of new building maintenance and old building maintenance. It's can sometimes be quite challenging, and us trying to figure out how to do that properly. We also have a good amount of daytime guests that come and visit the park. We have the visitor center here that is the hub of all information. Over 17 miles of trails for hiking and equestrian use. 3 picnic shelters and 1 enclosed shelter that's available for rent and use, and numerous picnic sites throughout the park. Mention our visitor center. It is the hub for all information, maps and wayfinding throughout the park. We also have a really nice resale area that's focused on selling park-specific merchandise or things that will help you enjoy your stay here at the park. Another key component that we do in the park is our interpretive programs and outreach. Our interpreter staff program provides programs year-round to a variety of groups, such as campers that are here, other visitors, youth groups, go out to schools, have other summer camps come and visit us. It's quite the undertaking and really varied in using all parts of the park out in the field or here in our exhibits or going to schools as an outreach program. A little bit more on the visitor center exhibits here. Of course, we've got some of our live animals that we'd like to showcase, things that you would find in the park or in our associated close, river systems. A couple of new things that we've added this past year, which of course we've installed new tank filtration upgrades to our big tanks. Not something you necessarily see, but something that is very important to our animals that we are in charge of taking care of. And we continue to add revolving exhibits. We've come across some information about the Civilian Conservation Corps camps that were here. They actually had a baseball team, and we're able to find they were champions back in the day, and find some replica things and old photos, and interpret some of that previous history that we have here. So we're just trying to keep things a little bit new and updated and revolving, so people come back and find something new. Of course, we have lots of natural resource opportunities here in the park. One of the key things that we always like to mention this time of year is our managed deer hunt, which is coming up at the beginning of November. This year it's going to be Friday, November 1st through Sunday, November 3rd. The park will be closed, but as part of our mission to maintain some of our wildlife and the green spaces associated with that. We do that in conjunction with the Missouri Department of Conservation. We also do a lot of other stewardship initiatives, such as prescribed burning across some of our landscapes, and of course, invasive species removal, anything between honeysuckle and stiltgrass. And we have no shortage of invasive species that should not be in the park that we look to control. We're always looking for interested volunteers to come help us do that. We have plenty of volunteer opportunities. We also have a very unique cooperative partnerships. I've mentioned the OEC, or the Outdoor Education Center, multiple times. We've partnered with the Rockwood School District, or the Parkway Rockwood Community Education. They run the OEC on a day-to-day basis. They take reservations and schedule programming that is specific down there. In the school year, it can be used by school camps and the cabins that are down there as well, used by other various scout groups or organized groups. It's really kind of a nice place if you don't know about it. And you're looking for a place to stay. It can be for a single small group or renting out the whole camp for a whole summer camp. And if you are interested in something like that, please reach out to us or reach out to them. They're easily found via our website. And yes, they've also utilized part of our historic stables to run some of their summer camps as well. So we were really happy to have them as a partnership here in the park. And the other component that we have, of course, are Missouri State Park Rangers, who are part of our staff, and they kind of have a regional approach, but they help provide security and just a point of contact as well to visitors visiting the park. So we're very thankful to have our park rangers that are part of the state park family as well. Few project updates, which we always like to talk about and see how some of the tax dollars are being used, not just for general upkeep and operations, but for enhancements of ways to enhance our operation of the park. And a couple of those things are, we had just gotten a new thumb attachment to our big backhoe, which allows us to grab things, especially in tree damage and storm damage. It's a very useful tool. May not look like much in that picture there on the left-hand side, but it's an integrated part of the machine, and it is very useful. Another thing that we were able to get this past year was an all-electric golf cart that our campground hosts can use, and we use throughout the park. Switching to electric, getting away from gas is a really nice thing. To be able to just plug in, we don't have to worry about the upkeep of engine and oil and all this. And it's been a really great addition, and our camp hosts are very excited to use that throughout the campground. Another thing, we were able to replace one of our fleet vehicles with a newer truck, another Ford F-150 this past year. Vehicles are sometimes, they're a nice commodity to have, and it's not something that gets replaced often. So we're very fortunate to have one of our older trucks go out of service and get a new one into service. And when that is upcoming, we're going to take delivery here this late fall, is replacing our Bobcat or mini skid steer. Another useful piece of machinery to help us do all park related things, and the versatility of adding a lot of attachments that allow us to do a lot of things in the park, between digging, stump grinding, and mowing. They're really a versatile machine and very, very useful here in the park. We continue to kind of do upgrades at the OEC. We, in the past year, were able to finally add 3 cabins that have air conditioning installed in them, which they've never had since inception there in the 70s, and that's trying to keep up with the times, and with the camp really being available for special needs groups. It's really become a factor here in the summertime, especially to have some cabins with air conditioning in those. We continue to look for complete replacement at all of our cabins. And another big unexpected expense was the large HVAC unit at our recreation hall down at the OEC. It just was at the end of its life and failed. And so we are in the process of replacing that as well. Again, not the most glamorous sometimes in your face projects, but very, very useful and nice to have, especially here in St. Louis summer times. Another thing that we've been working on is, of course, is our paved trail. We've replaced a lot of the pavement in sections of that trail this past year. We have a small section in the interior that is still left to be done. That's getting wrapped up. We had to do some base work in that section first, and we're hoping to have that go out to bid here at the end of the year and surfacing of that in spring of 2025, and then that path will be completed. So we're looking forward to that project being finalized. Another one of our big project updates was, of course, our revenue bonds, which revenue bonds were approved by the legislature. And those projects specifically with bonds, it was something that would generate revenue, hence the name a revenue bond project. So our campgrounds, of course, generate revenue, and that money will help go pay off those bonds for the upgrades. And we are replacing 38 of our campground sites with full hookups, which would be 50 amp service, sewer, and water hookups, which we have never had the full hookups here in our park, and realigning the pads and extending them to minimum 55 foot. So you can kind of see the newer concrete and the construction one down there in the right-hand corner. That's the new pads, and they look really nice, and we're working on it this year, and hopefully by the end of this, November 1st is still the scheduled date for those to be completed, weather dependent. So we're looking forward to having those up and running for April of 2025 when our on-season starts again. Another one is an American Rescue Plan Act project, which is hooking the park into municipal water. Currently, we are on a well system, our own independent well in the park, and it's served well for a lot of years, the original inception, but it's time to switch into a more reliable source of water. It gets the park system out of managing water and water quality and distribution. So we're excited about that and be able to use those American Rescue Plan Act dollars to make that happen. That will be occurring in 2025 when we're going to get hooked into that. And then that will lead to the decommissioning of our well and water tower, which is aging. So we are excited to have that one come along as well. And another revenue bond, of course, is the Babler Lodge project. If you're not familiar with the lodge, you've never heard of it, it's a tucked away spot in the park that's really never been accessible to the public. It's been many things over many years, and it's come back into State Parks control. And we are excited to be able to be working on designs to have that as overnight accommodations for people to come and stay. We are in the design process for that currently, and we're hoping to see a lot of movement on that again in 2025 with finalizing of plans and some of the rehabilitation for that building. So be aware that that one's coming up. Another one that we were able to do last year was move our small equestrian lot down to its new area by the old pool and establish a new trailhead down there. It's been a long request by a lot of our equestrian horse users to expand our lot for bigger trailers to have accessibility and be able to turn around and have space. And we were able to accomplish that by moving that officially down by the old pool area. Some of the other on the horizon projects as well. Speaking of the old pool, if you know anything about the old pool, it sits in the middle of the park. That has been abandoned and decommissioned for, well, we're approaching 16, 17 years. And we are in the process of actually starting to remove parts of those buildings. The old filter house, which is in bad shape, and the actual pool deck itself and pool are going to be removed here. Hopefully this fall, you will see some movement on that. So we're excited for that to finally happen, and then we can really look at what we're going to do with that area and redevelopment of it. First thing, of course, is getting those old defunct buildings out of the way. Another one that we are still looking at doing is replacing our playground at the Guy Park Trailhead. A few years back, we had, as you can see in this picture, a nice tree come and smash our fairly old playground. It damaged it pretty heavily, so we decided to remove the whole thing. We are still working on plans and trying to identify money to get that rebuilt in that area. And that's really all part of that sort of Central Valley area redevelopment between the old pool, this area. We're looking to try to do a comprehensive plan on really reimagining that part of the park or enhancing it back to probably what it needs to be for our visitor services while still, protecting our cultural resources and our natural resources. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. Really thank you for taking the time to listen to this video and see some of the things that we do and some of the projects we have accomplished this past year and what we're looking to move into for next year. We hope that you watch. And if you have any questions, of course, you can contact us with the links or call the park. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you again so much.